Good morning, my friends. Welcome to the podcast, The Millionaire of the Diamonds. And today it's going to be an extraordinary podcast. I really want you to lean. I say that every morning. No, but it really is. Like, it's one of my favorite books. Okay. Think and Grow Rich. And I said to Marie-Pierre, Jean-Philippe, Sylvain, we just did the mastermind a couple of minutes before. I said, we can start this book over and over and over and over again. And it's always going to be new information because the brain is only capable to captivate a very small amount. And I'm looking at this segment, the 30 reasons people fail in life. And we're at reason number 9. So we've got to get all the way to 30, right? So, and reason number 9 is fear. And it talks about the 6 big fears, but then it also mentions that in chapter 15 or something, we're going to go into detail of the 6 fears. And as I was looking into it, I said, there's one fear that is one of the fear fears. I'm going to call it the fear fears. And that's what we're going to cover today, okay? There's one fear, the fear of fears, that is the biggest one of all. And it's the fear of criticism. And I don't know why they don't talk about it. Maybe because of when the book was written. I don't know. But in my segment, we're going to uncover how the fear of what people will think can quietly paralyze us. Okay. And Melanie, there's a science behind that. I don't know what she's going to talk about, but I know that in the moments just before I go live or in the moments just before doing a meeting, if I don't develop mechanisms to cope with the rise in cortisol, that is the reason I don't push that live button. That is the reason I will not ask you what I need to ask you. When cortisol is high, I use the human being usually they say fight or flight. Cortisol is there. If we're facing a bear, it's going to make us fight or flight. Unfortunately, in the human being, most of the times when this type of fear of criticism settles in, we always take the option flight. So Melanie's going to go a little bit more in detail. Marie-Pierre is going to do the social mirror. So before we dive in, before you get that pen and paper, I mean, if you can just write down one word, it will change your ability of dealing with the fear of criticism. We're going to go to Marie-Pierre because we want to share this podcast with everybody we know that's living inside a cage of fear of criticism. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, 99% of the people. Marie-Pierre, over to you.
Okay, so let's start to share everywhere. So you want to use the arrow just beside where you write your comment, so you can share on every social media platform. And in the comment, you can copy paste the text that is there, so people understand why they should listen to the podcast. So when you share it, you copy paste the text, so they know exactly why. But of course, when you have someone in mind that really needs this podcast, send it directly by messenger, by text message. Those one-on-one is the best way to make sure that they will listen to the podcast. So same thing, you click on the arrow just beside where you write your comment, and you can share it by messenger or text message too. Then we have our contest, Les Millionnaires des Diamants. So first, when you go on our Facebook group, Les Millionnaires des Diamants Inspirational Group, every time you post, every time you react, every time you comment on the group, you gain point during the month to be in the top 10 contributor of the group. And at the end of the month, the official top 10 will get a voucher to go shop on the boutique Les Millionnaires des Diamants. And then we have a draw at the end of each month. To be in the draw, there's 2 ways. First, with the boutique Les Millionnaires des Diamants, and the second with the books Les Millionnaires des Diamants. So when you go on the boutique, you place your order, you receive your order. Make sure you always take a picture and you post on social media and you tag the page Les Millionnaires des Diamants to be in the draw. And with the book, same thing. You receive one of the book, you take a picture. You're reading one of the book, you take a picture. You're doing one of the workbook, you take a picture. It's one of the quiz book, you take a picture. You're using your agenda Les Millionnaires des Diamants. Again, you can take a picture. That means you can have a new picture every day that you can post on social media, and always tag the page Les Millionnaires des Diamants to be in the draw at the end of the month. And the last thing, if you don't already have your ticket for the next conference, it's time to go click on the link. Join us for the next conference. It's a virtual conference. You can join us from all around the world. And even if the time is not right for you, you can watch it in replay. So make sure that you get your ticket. And for those that want to be in the studio with us during the conference, we still have some place. So make sure that you send me a message as soon as you get your ticket, so we can reserve your place in the studio. Voila.
Thank you so much. So let's dive in right away, okay? Fear of criticism. When other people's opinion become your prison, we have a problem. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome again to the podcast, The Millionaire of the Diamonds. And we're going to continue with the 30 major reasons people fail in business, honestly, in life. Okay. And today we're going to go in one aspect of failure, but don't forget, I believe in chapter 15, we're going to go into six major causes. So, fear. Uh, what is this fear people are living continuously? The major one that paralyzes a lot of people in business is the fear of criticism. Not the fear of actually failing, but the fear of what will people say if I fail. And there's a huge difference between both. I've watched this for many years, actually 40 plus years, right? You know what? No, even when I was 12, I was 13. My friends that wouldn't babysit, what if they would think crooked? What if the husband is not nice? Or what if and that would have stopped them. That actually stopped some of my young friends to babysit because of the fear of what might be happening. You know what? I think it was created also by the parents, Matty. When parents are overly protective, like, sorry, I'm delivering the podcast as we go this morning. My brain is just going up because I was sharing with Jean-Philippe and Sylvain that I was raised by parents that really were great at removing fear. My dad always said, nobody will remember. Nobody will know. People aren't listening. Just do what you have to do. And with the fact that people won't remember, he says, look at how many presidents committed crimes, or, they were accused of sexual harassment, whatever, and they got reelected. Dun, 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 Trump, like, let's give ourselves an example. Anyways, sorry, guys, I got off track. But, I was raised that way. And I think parents, you really have to be careful not to instill fear in your children. Put a hat, you're going to catch a cold. That's another fear. I never told my kids to put a hat. They used to come out of the pool. They were swimming every morning. By the time they got to the car, they had icicles in their hair. Oh, what a great parent I was. Okay. Okay. So I watched this year, for the last 40 years. And yeah. What will people think? Well, at least you're doing something, right? They want to recruit somebody. Well, what if they tell me no? They want to do their first live. What if nobody is watching? They want to pursue a promotion. What if I tell everybody I didn't make it? How they'll know I failed? And I've realized something over the years. Sometimes people would rather not try than give somebody the opportunity to watch them fail. Think about it. Okay? I'm hoping you really shared this podcast, by the way. If I don't do it, you can't criticize me, right? And if I never tell you what my goals are, you'll never see that I missed it, right? And I am always about being very, very loud about what you want to achieve, because now it makes you accountable. And therefore, it brings you to something very important, which is tracking. So fear cannot be created in your soul. Like, don't allow this fear to be your prison. And now, one of the metaphors that I really loved here that was written for me is fear of criticism is like living inside a glass cage. You can see everything you want on the other side. You can see the opportunities. You can see the business. You can see the promotion. You can see the person you could become. There is no locked door. There is no guard standing outside. And yet you don't leave. Why? Because the walls are made from imaginary sentences. And look at this. What will they think? What will they say? What if I embarrass myself? What if I fail? And here is the biggest tragedy. Most of the people whose opinions you are afraid of aren't even thinking about you. Nobody's thinking about you. Guys, nobody is thinking about you. Nobody. Everybody is selfish, including myself. We do things for ourselves. Remember, if I do the homeless project, oh, Maria, then I'm doing it for me. I need to give back. I need to feel good. I need to feel like this is the reality. Everybody is doing it for themselves. So there's something I've learned personally. I've done thousands of presentations. I've spoken in front of audiences. I've coached leaders. I've gone live. I've made videos. I've made tons and tons and thousands of mistakes publicly. We want to talk about how I speak French or English. Let's leave that aside, right? I've watched things completely flop. And here's what I discovered: the criticism never killed me. You know, the higher up you go, the more you're criticized. So when you're criticizing me, I'm going, yes, it means I'm doing something. If you're not being criticized, you're doing nothing. Okay. So just remember that. And this is the science that behind it that is stopping you. We're going to go over to Melanie Miller. There she is.
I'm here.
I know you're here. You're here. Welcome, Melanie.
Okay, good morning, everybody. And thank you, Maria. I know that Maria will have shared some wonderful stories with you about fear. And I'm sure she shared with you the metaphor of being inside a glass box, and you feel like you're in a glass box, and you can see everything you would like to achieve. You can almost reach it, yet somehow there is an invisible barrier preventing you from moving forward. I think everyone has experienced that feeling. It reminded me of the day before I ran my marathon in Ottawa. Ugh. Until that point, I'd been excited. I'd trained for months. I'd followed my program. I knew exactly what I had to do. Okay, guys, I must apologize. I'm a wreck this morning. I hurt my knee badly yesterday, and the thought of not being able to run again. Anyway, the day before the race, I stood watching the shorter races begin. The atmosphere was incredible. Then, almost without warning, something changed. I became overwhelmed with fear. What if I failed? What if I was the last person to finish? What if people were disappointed in me because I knew I was going to be very slow? For a few minutes, all of those thoughts became so overwhelming that I simply stood there and cried. It seems to be a habit of mine. I even began to question why I had entered the marathon in the first place. Fortunately, after a few minutes, another part of my brain began to speak. It reminded me that I had done the training. It reminded me that I already knew I would be one of the slowest runners. Most importantly, it reminded me that finishing was always my goal. At that moment, nothing about the race had changed. The course was the same, the distance was the same. The only thing that had changed was the conversation taking place inside my own brain. I need to give myself a talking to today. Modern neuroscience helps us protect and understand exactly what was happening. Fear is one of the oldest survival systems in the human brain. Long before human beings had language, fear kept us alive. Deep inside the brain is a small structure called the amygdala. Although it is only about the size of an almond, it plays an enormous role in detecting danger. The amygdala is constantly asking one question: am I safe? Whenever it believes we might be in danger, it reacts almost instantly. Our heart beats faster, our breathing becomes quicker, our muscles tighten, stress hormones, including adrenaline and cortisol, are released into the bloodstream. All of this prepares the body for what the psychologists call the flight, fight, or freeze response. Thousands of years ago, that response protected us from wild animals. Today, however, the brain often reacts in exactly the same way to situations that are not physically dangerous. Speaking in public, starting a business, making recruiting calls, running a marathon. The brain does not always distinguish between physical danger and emotional risk. One of the fascinating discoveries in psychology is that fear is often based on prediction rather than reality. The brain imagines what might happen. What if I fail? What if people laugh at me? What if I embarrass myself like now? The remarkable thing is that the body often responds to those imagined events as though they are already happening. Very often, we are not afraid of reality. We are afraid of the story our brain is telling us about reality. Fortunately, we have another remarkable part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. Just behind the forehead, allows us to think logically and evaluate evidence. That is exactly what happened to me before the marathon. My emotional brain was imagining failure. My thinking brain quietly began asking different questions. Have you trained? Yes. Do you know you will be slow? Yes. Can you still finish? Yes. Little by little, facts replaced fear. The fear did not disappear completely. However, it no longer controlled my decision. Perhaps courage is simply the moment when our thinking brain becomes stronger than our fearful brain. Psychologists have discovered that resilient people are not necessarily less afraid. They simply interpret fear differently. Instead of seeing fear as a sign that they should stop, they see it as evidence that they are doing something worthwhile. They understand that growth almost always lies just beyond discomfort. Carol Dweck's research on the growth mindset supports this idea. People with a growth mindset believe that challenges help them develop. Failure is not proof that they are incapable, it is simply part of the learning process. That belief changes the way the brain responds to difficult situations. There is another encouraging discovery. Every time we face a fear, instead of avoiding it, the brain learns something new. It learns, I survived. The next time we face a similar situation, the fear is often a little smaller. This is called neuroplasticity. The brain rewires itself through experience. The opposite is also true. Every time we avoid something because it frightens us, the brain quietly learns that really must have been dangerous. The fear becomes stronger. This is why confidence grows through action, not through waiting. Perhaps the most powerful antidote to fear is purpose. When something matters deeply enough, we become willing to experience temporary discomfort. Parents do this constantly for their children. Leaders do it for their teams. Teachers do it for their students. The purpose becomes greater than the fear. Looking back, I realized that I did not complete my marathon because I was fearless. I completed it because my reason for finishing became stronger than my fear of failing. Perhaps Napoleon Hill understood something that neuroscience has only recently been able to explain. Fear is not the enemy, fear is simply information. The question is whether we allow fear to become the author of our lives or whether we allow purpose, preparation, and reason to write the next chapter instead. Every worthwhile dream will probably involve fear. Every meaningful goal will probably involve uncertainty. The people who succeed are not those who never experience fear. They are those who learn to walk forward with fear beside them, rather than allowing fear to stand in front of them. Perhaps that is the true secret of courage. It is not the absence of fear, it is choosing to act anyway. Whew, and now I'll pass you over to Marie-Pierre. Can't hear you, Marie-Pierre.
Voila. Now it's gonna be good. Yeah, so I really love Melanie, how you say it, and sometimes we need the podcast Maria was talking, we are doing something selfish sometimes, and the podcast is one of them. We need it. So now we're gonna continue with the quiz because we realize that yes, fear is one of that most powerful force in the human behavior, but most of the time we don't really recognize it as a fear. So we don't see that fear is making our decision. So really the question today is who is making your decision, you or your fear? So because we imagine that fear is something like so obvious that someone will be trembling, someone will be panicking, someone will say I'm scared, but fear is not always something that obvious. So sometimes we don't realize it that fear is taking over and that we don't use our prefrontal cortex and to really take the good decision. So today I want you to become curious about your fear and not to be ashamed of it. Okay, so for each question you want to choose the answer that sounds most like you, what you will usually do, and not what you know that you should do, but what you actually do. So let's start. You can answer A, B, or C for each question. So let's start question number one. So you have an opportunity that really excites you, but you are unsure that you will succeed. So do you A, usually turn it down or postpone it? B, you will feel the fear, gather what you need, and then take a reasonable first step. Or C, you jump into almost anything immediately without considering the risk. Question number two. You need to have an uncomfortable conversation with someone. What do? A, I avoid it as long as possible. B, I prepare what I need to say and have the conversation respectfully. Or C, I react quickly and say whatever I'm feeling in the moment. Question number three. You're thinking about posting maybe your first video or speaking publicly. So what do? A, you keep preparing because you're afraid of looking foolish. B, you accept that it may be imperfect, but you do it anyway. Or C, you post without thinking about the message or the consequences. Question number four. Now you have someone that criticizes something that you have done. What do? A, you take it personally and begin questioning whether you should continue. B, you consider whether there is something useful to learn and keep moving. Or C, you dismiss all criticism immediately because you don't want anyone to influence you. And question number five. When you think about your biggest dream, which one is true? A, I often imagine why it may never happen. B, identify what scares me and then determine what action I can take anyway. Or C, I rarely think about obstacles because I prefer not to deal with them. So did you get mostly A's, mostly B's, or mostly C's? So if you have mostly A, you are the fear-led decision maker. So you may be thoughtful, responsible, and highly aware of consequences. So those can be wonderful qualities, but sometimes caution quietly become avoidance. So fear may be deciding more than you realize, not through dramatic panic, but through delay, overthinking, perfectionism, waiting, preparing forever, needing approval. So your next level is not to eliminate your fear, but it's learning to recognize when you have a fear that has moved from giving you information to controlling your behavior. So you want to ask yourself, am I waiting because I generally need more information or just because I'm uncomfortable? So you can choose then one small action. So you don't need the courage for the entire journey, but just the courage for the first step. Now, if you have it mostly B, so you are the courageous decision maker. So you understand that fear and courage can exist at the same time. So you don't automatically run from discomfort, but you also don't ignore those legitimate concerns. So you pause, you think, you learn, you assess, then you act. So this is healthy courage. You have learned that fear can advise you without controlling you. So continue stretching yourself because sometimes even courageous people will create a new comfort zone and stop challenging themselves. So you want to keep asking yourself, what would growth require of me now? And if you have mostly C's, now you are the fear denier. So you are naturally bold. You may move quickly, take risk, and refuse to let other people's opinion control you. So that can be a tremendous strength, but courage is not pretending that fear has nothing useful to tell us. So some fear is information. It can tell us, okay, prepare or slow down or learn more. Ask for help, protect yourself so your challenge is not becoming less courageous, but it's becoming more discerning. So healthy courage will say, I hear the warning, I will evaluate, and then I'll decide. And recklessness will say, I refuse to listen to anything. So fear should not drive the car, but sometimes it deserves a seat in the meeting. So remember that yes, fear can be an excellent advisor, but it's a terrible decision maker. So let fear speak so you can listen when there's something valuable to learn. But when it's time to vote, make sure that the final vote belongs to you. So on that, I wish you a beautiful day, a beautiful weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Dun, 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 dun.